go ahead and get this started. So welcome everyone. I am Heather Lamb and I am your host today, and we're very excited that you're joining us for this great Monday afternoon for our webinar. I wanted to let you know that you should have, I think, except for a couple of people that might have registered a little bit late, and if you're on the watching the webinar, you should have received an email from me giving you the files that we're going to be using today. This is going to be a 3-part series. If you haven't had a chance to download those, I've got on the screen the shortcut, little shortener, Google shortener. This is the file. So this is going to be a little bit of a different format, and if you want to participate and practice along with me, you can do so. And so that's what these resources are. If you want to just listen to me today and then go back and practice after listening to the recording, that's a great way as well. It's up to you. It's your own personal preference. But to make this kind of a make it and take it, we are I sent out those resources so that you'll have something to practice with. Also, we usually in our regular ed-to-ed sessions, Tara and I have a today's meet going on, and you know, I decided that I wanted to let people have another way to ask questions, to comment, to offer suggestions. So we've got this today's meet back channel, and what a back channel is just kind of a side conversation. So if what you and people have already started joining. So there's some people, and Tara's chiming in. So Tara's in the background. I also put the table resources there as well. So go ahead if you want to. You just need to go to that login, today'smeet.com/sept, S-E-P-T, table, and you can introduce yourself. So that's just another little way to stay connected. So let's go ahead and get started, and if you need that, you can go back to those resources. If you didn't get those resources, that's in that today's meet session as well, and we'll also try to post that out. But we're really excited that you're joining us today, and we're going to have a really great time to understand more about the SMART table. So I'm going to go through, this is a quick little agenda. We're going to go through some quick introductions, with the purpose, you know, why are we doing this? I want to remind people because we're still having new people, people that are just getting their SMART tables, so just a quick reminder about documents, and then some ideas about what's new, and then we're going to have some table toolkit exploration. So if you do have a question, please don't hesitate to ask us. I'm also excited because we have a SMART Exemplary Educator, Brandy Megos. She's a teacher from Clear Creek ISD in Texas, and she is a table expert. She's had a table for a while and then had a job, her role changed last year, so she didn't have as much time with the table as she'd like to, but then this year she said, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, I'm going to get back right into it. So she's got some great tips and tricks that I've asked her to join us today to talk about, resources, and then our next session as a reminder. So I'm Heather, and then I have Tara on the line. Tara's, she's going to be running kind of the back end of things, and if you have any questions, let her know, and she'll be chiming in and watching the today's meet as well. We do have our Educator-to-Educator network that I'll talk about a little bit that we're going to start posting the resources to. It's a little easier, and it's 24/7 access. So if I start cleaning out some of my Dropbox folders, those won't get deleted, those files. And then always we have a recording that we'll post on the YouTube channel, smarttable.friend. And actually, well, it does have user in there, but you don't have to have that user part. So Basically, this is, why are we doing these things? Why do we want to? And so part of it that we'll collectively create, that's what we're doing today. We want you to build skills and techniques so that you can understand how the table works as the hardware piece, but also the toolkit. And today's focus is really on the toolkit because we know that sometimes we want to customize or to create on our own. So today's focus is really on the toolkit. We want to share best practices, and that's really why we started the Learning Network, is because you're able to connect with other educators that way and comment and find those resources. And then really the reason we started the Today's Meet for a lot of reasons is that it allows you to network at another level. So if you have a great idea, post it out there. If you have some resources or some things, you guys are a great community, and we want to continue building and sharing with you. So how can you participate? You already shared with me that you could hear me. So that's one great way. If you do want to raise your hand and you do want to talk, you can definitely raise your hand. Just it works better if you have a headset, or make sure that your mic. If you accidentally click on the little hand, you can press it again and it will close back down, so I won't open your mic and ask you if you have a question. There is a question panel box that you can type questions, and Tara will be watching that. The session is being recorded to view again, so we record all the sessions, and barring no technical difficulties, then we'll have a great recording that you can refer back to and share. We also send out a certificate of participation, so that if you're looking to meet your professional development hours, this should work for you as far as showing that you spent an hour with us today. So I wanted just to remind you that we do have a bunch of resources. So if I go to this link with my lots and lots of email, lots of things open, and I'll share this file, but there are support documents here that you can go. The easiest way to get to these is from the support tab, and then if you go to software downloads, and then you're going to click on the SMART table. There are product downloads and support documents. So there's tons of how-to articles, if you have the 230i, there's troubleshooting if you need that. There's product guides. This is really what I wanted you to look at, is the product guides here. We just upgraded the table software to version 3.1, which we'll talk about, and the toolkit's now version 2.6. So if you're looking for a user's guide, a product guide, and if you need this, I would highly encourage you to look here. If you're looking for that, just those extra special, those tidbits of information, I would definitely encourage you. It's taking a little bit of time to load here, so I'm going to minimize that. So that's what's in here, and as I said, I'll share this file out. So don't feel like you have to rapidly try to mark all this down. This is available from our website under the support tab, and then you go to support documents and product documents. So let's talk about a little bit of basics here. Let's see. So we have a question about crystals. So the Today's Meet link is todaysmeet.com/September. So let me go back up for a second. So if there might be a couple of other people that need that. So it's September SEPT table. So there you go. So todaysmeet.com set table, and we'll try to keep that kind of standard. All right, let me go back down here to my page. So I wanted to just cover a few little of the basics for you, so that just because I know we have people that have the 230i and people that have the 442. So I will tell you that just in the last week I updated a 230i, and it worked fantastically as expected. So if you are concerned about upgrading your table, you don't have to be concerned, and it worked fantastically. The only thing that we'll talk about is the update. So you need to make sure that you have the Wi-Fi is set up when you're doing an update on both the 230i and the 442. Now, some of you may have a really, really early version of the SMART table that might not have Wi-Fi access. You can still plug into the internet with a regular Cat5 cable. But I just wanted to give you some general that the toolkit is what goes on your computer. So if I have the toolkit, that's what goes on your computer, and the SMART Table software is what goes on your SMART Table. So just the clarifiers. If your table has not been updated yet, it needs to be updated to version 2.6. If it hasn't been updated to version 2.6, you're going to need to download the file, and you can download version 3.1 and manually do an update. If your table, and this is probably more for the 230i's, if your table has been updated to 2.6, you can actually do an update from the table and update it that way, which we'll talk a little bit more about. So just a reminder, I do get a bunch of questions that people ask me, well, do I put the toolkit on the table and the table on my computer, the table software? So they are two separate things. The table software goes on the table, the toolkit goes on their computer. So a little bit more vocabulary. We've got our student menu and our student mode, and we've got our teacher mode. The student mode is what the students choose, how they choose the activities. The teacher mode is where the teacher will choose which activities they're going to interact with, how many learners, the volume, those kinds of things. Here is a link. So this is what I just said. So if you go out to our website, and if you go out to the website, and let me go here, and I'll just go to our website, smarttech.com. Let's see. Here we go. If I go to the support tab and I go to software downloads, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the SMART table. So cute. Whoops, I went past it. There we go. And so here is the software for the SMART table. Here's your software for the toolkit is what goes on the computer. So if I'm updating, if I have to manually update it, I would download this software to a USB. I don't have to extract it or do anything. It tells you all the steps. You just place it on the USB and then plug it in, and it should prompt you and say, hey, there looks like a new update. If you do have Wi-Fi access, you can go and to this right here. So it's a direct download. This should look familiar to those of you that have Smart Notebook. This is our product updater. So if you are connected to the internet, whether it's Wi-Fi or if you're hardwired, the 230i, you'll have to go inside of the table and plug in the Cat5 into the actual tower. The 442, if underneath the table there is a Cat5 port, so up inside of here underneath there is by the on-off button, there's actually a Cat5. So if you're having struggles with Wi-Fi, you can do it and then just bring that cord down below. This one you'll have to go in through the table. But there is a new check for updates that I did this the other day and it worked beautifully. So you just check for updates. It will remove the old software and add the new. If you don't have version 2.6, you'll need to go ahead and manually. So manually, I mean by placing it on a USB and then plugging it into plug a USB drive and then plugging it into a USB port, and then it should prompt you and say, hey, it looks like there's an update for you. Don't change the name of the download or anything. Just keep it like it is. You just need to make sure it's also on the root menu. And root is just so it's not in a folder or anything. And then it'll prompt you. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of new updates, so that's why I want to encourage you to update to version 3.1. And then once again, I did send out a link to both the Windows and Mac. The software is cross-platform, but this is what we're going to be working with today is the toolkit. If you, for whatever reason, didn't get your toolkit loaded on your computer, I encourage you just to watch and go through, watch me doing the steps, and then come back and watch the video and practice again. But the toolkit is available. If I go back to that link again, whoops. If I go back, and this is the table software, so I'm going to go back and scroll back down, back to my SMART table, and this time is where I'm going to go to the Windows or the Mac version. And I want to make sure I'm version 2.6. So it's a pretty seamless install, and then you'll be up to date. All right. So if you don't know which version you're running, I included this in here. So I have the file that we're going to be using, and so basically I did a completed file, but we're going to put it together. But in case you wanted to see what it's going to look like, I put a completed file. I always try to start with the whole and then break it down. But you can go to this About tab, and in this About tab, you can go to Technical Support, and you can see where I have just updated my tables toolkit software to 2.6. So make sure that you're running this version so that you have the most current. You can always check for software updates and get it updated that way. So you might be asking yourself, well, how do I check on my table to see what version of software I'm running on my table? Well, let me go back up here and let me stretch this out and show you. So if on this, when I'm on the teacher mode, this icon right here, this is your About. So if you're in here, if you select that when you're on the SMART table, there's the same thing, the Technical Support tab, and you can tell which version that you're running from there. So that's how you change that. The calibration is different on the 230i and the 442. You guys, if you do have a 442, it's a different kind of calibration. It's not, you won't have to do it very often, but it is a little bit different. There's two steps. You go through the first step, which is the points, and then there's these little squares, these panels that you draw little green circles that identify it. So the other, if you have a 230i, the calibration is the points. So you'll have points, but then you'll have to drag your fingers to the corner so that the camera actually identifies your touch. So that's just a little bit different, but they still are, the intent is for you to have that great user experience and really have your kids having that great user experience. All right, so let me come back down here. Let me go into full screen so I can get this bigger. All right, so I wanted to give you a couple more basics. So switching from student mode to teacher mode. So there you can plug in a USB and it will engage you into teacher mode. So once again, this is teacher mode. If I wanted to go to student mode or back and forth, I can do what's called, I call it 5-finger kind of press. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but you place 5 fingers in the center of the table. Now, you don't want your fingers to be, and this is not something a student would do, you don't want your fingers to be all spread out and laying flat. You kind of cup your hand, and your hand has to go into the center, and you have to have consistent pressure. So don't let your fingers kind of toggle back and forth. So you have consistent pressure for about 7, 8, maybe 10 seconds. And when you do that, you will get this you'll get this little cog in the center right here. So I lost my pen here. Let's see. Right there. So you get this little cog. Now it's 2 hands. So you press with your one hand in the center with the 5 fingers, and the other hand you have to press while you have the 5 fingers in the middle. Press that cog and release. If you press twice, it's going to toggle back and forth. So it's a toggle once, toggle back. So once I do what I need to do, then I press on that little cog, and then I can go back and toggle again back to either the teacher mode or the student mode. So that's, if you're struggling with that, the USB will work just fine as well. So that's just a shortcut. Sometimes I can't find my USB little drives. I mean, I have a jillion of them, but when I need one, I can't find one. So that's just an easy way to do it. Just takes a little practice. Once you get it, you kind of figure it out. It's one of those things I can tell you how to do it, but you'll have to figure it how your touch is for yourself. So that's your press and hold or the USB. All right, so once again, that's our teacher menu with the little cog in the center or on the bottom. It's always, the cog is always going to show up in the opposite side of the power button. So wherever the power button is, look and see if you have the cog, that's where it's going to show up. So that's where you may want to stand, is opposite of the power button. And then we have our student mode. Our student mode will change depending on what applications I'm using or what activity pack I'm using. All right. So that was just a real quick little overview. Tara, do we have any questions that I need to ask?
No questions. Nope, nothing's come in.
I don't think so. I think we're all good.
Yep,
all right.
We're all good.
If you have any questions, don't forget you can raise your hand, or hopefully you're chiming in on the today's meet, and we'll get those questions answered for you. Let's see. I normally have two computers, and I'm traveling, so I'm having to negotiate with one computer. All right. So what we're going to do is this is going to be part one of. Whoops. Hang on just a second. Oops. All right. Hopefully you can still hear me. My headphone just fell out. All right. So this is going to be part one of our a three-part series. So Patricia, you have your hand up again. Did you have a question? Okay. So yes.
Hey Heather, can you hear me? It's
yes.
Tara.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me.
Yes.
I'm thinking Patricia's hand is up from when you asked if people could hear her. I didn't put it down.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. All right. All right. So the question is so Diane, you have a great question. Yes, I am going to share you. So sorry, I'm, in the hotel room, I'm having all kinds of trouble today, so I apologize. So yes, you're going to get a hard copy of this presentation. I will be posting this at the end. I'll talk about where we're going to post it. So just so you have that information. Okay, so we'll continue. So it's always the life when you travel. So let's go into this. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be a three-part series. So I didn't want to overwhelm you. So this is part one, is about the Smart Table Toolkit. It's all about the Smart Table Toolkit, but we're just going to do a general overview. I'm going to do some general tips and tricks, nothing major. I'm going to talk about hotspots and media. And then I'm going to talk about some new applications, and then I'm going to let Brandy give her tips and tricks. And that's going to be what we're going to do today. So you should have a folder that you received from me, and inside of the folder, let me see, I think it's this one's what you have. You have some inside of that Dropbox folder. If you have that, you've got a few little things in there that we're going to be using. There's some notebook file page. If you don't have Smart Notebook, I already saved it for you as a background. I also put it in PowerPoint. I'll talk about how to save backgrounds. I also gave you some leaves, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to do a media app, and I've already given you some pictures that we're going to drag and drop, and I included a video of time-lapse radishes, only because I couldn't find a leaf jumping that was Creative Commons, and I didn't want to get in trouble for breaking copyright. So I gave you this. I guess you plant radishes in the fall. It sounded good to me. So that's why that video is there. And I'll talk about some ideas for this. So you have those two applications folders. There is the one I created. You don't need to open that right now, but I did create it for you. And then I've given you a couple of activity reminder sheets that we'll talk about. So that's what's in your Dropbox folder. All right. Let's see. So I have my Smart Table Toolkit open, and I have this open right here, and I'm going to minimize my little screen so I can see this. And so Tara, I'm going to let you kind of, if you have any questions, I'm going to let you answer those, and then if you need to chime in, let me know. But what I've done is I'm going to give you a little bit of background, but this is what the ultimate activity pack is going to look like. So this is what our goal is today. So you don't have to open that, but I just wanted to give you the heads up. I'm going to start and I'm going to say new. So if you've got that other one open, you can click on new, so we're all starting fresh and clean. So if you don't have the Smart Table Toolkit on your computer, never fear. Like I said, you might want to just watch me today and then practice. Next time, what you might want to do is get somewhere where you could possibly have a screen watching and then listening, and then on your another computer interacting. It's up to you. Everybody has kind of the ways that they work. So let's talk about some just general things about the toolkit here. So this right here is, this blue area right here, this is what always shows up on an application. And when we start putting something there, you'll see how it's going to work. These are my applications right here, and you'll notice that I have many, many more than you probably do. So we'll talk about how did I get all of those there. You've got your new button, you have open. If you have something that you want to open and add to, which we will do next time, that's the difference between new and open. The difference between save all and save as. If you just want to click and save, you'll do a save all. If you wanted to change something but you wanted to keep the original, then you would do a save as. And best practice always says to save often, because you know weird things happen, that you'll be right in the middle of something and your computer has just a little meltdown. So that happens to me sometimes. You also have instructions. You know, sometimes when you pull up those activity packs, if you're familiar with those, and it says, you know, today you will be doing whatever, this is where you will type the instructions. So I might want to type in here, fall fun. And if I wanted to, one of the coolest things about what we have now is we can add audio enhancement. So if I wanted to record my voice, I could import the audio, I could read the instructions. If I wanted to import, there's two different ways that I can import, and this is going to go, the nice thing about the toolkit is it's very repetitive. So if you do the one thing, you're going to do it the same way every single time. So if I come over here and say import, I could have, and Brandy's probably going to talk about this, some of the things that she's done. She's created a lot of recordings of her voice saying the same directions. But I'm not going to do that. Today what I might do, and you won't be able to hear it through your computer won't be able to hear me, but if you do it yourself, you'll be able to hear yourself. So I'm going to select this record button, and it says, what do you want to do? And I can choose whichever is my mic, and I've got a lot of choices, which I'm just going to leave it like this for right now. I'm going to start the recording, and you can play. Recordings can be no longer than 120 seconds. I would try to limit them to really short, because the kids are going to be ready to start interacting. So if I start recording and say, today you're going to interact with some fall fun activities, I can stop it, and if I want to play it, I can do that. and then I would attach it. So when I attach it, now I have a little recording wave file. And that's pretty much how you do. So the table has a feature called Touch and Hear, and you can hear your recording. So if a student presses on something, you could record your voice. And next month we're actually going to do some of that, and I'm going to have another activity that will use that. So you have different characters. Just remember that instructions will only show the first time when you go into an activity pack. So you can't have instructions for multiple activities within the application. So the first thing I want to do is I need a background. And there's a lot of different ways I can get backgrounds. I can have something that I created as a background. I can go straight from the SMART Exchange. I can copy and paste. Well, since I'm doing fall, I am going to go and I'm going to show you how easy it is to find that this look like trees. I just went and I typed fall in here. And when I did, I think this is how I did. So I have these pictures right here that came in. And you can see this is actually tapping into the Exchange on the web, on the internet. So I can go through and I can find. I can't do anything. No, I can't create or I can't customize or do much with this. But let me see if I can type fall leaves because I know that's how I found that. Let's try that again. There it is. So it depends on your search strategies and your searching tool. So there's that picture. So I typed in here fall leaves. I'm going to select that icon or that picture right here and click the OK button. It's going to bring up a cropping option. I hope. It's thinking about it. Oh, there it is. And notice that you have the ability, you don't have the ability to resize, but you have the ability to crop out. So if I said, oh, I only want that part, I want that part, or I really like this part, I can do that. So I can crop out what I don't want to have in the picture. So make it be whatever. Well, that's kind of, let's do this. And then when I like it, I'm going to click OK. And there's my fun background. Now, when you make backgrounds, remember that that students are looking down. So your computer is a top down. So when you make things for Smart Notebook or PowerPoint or anything, you read from the top down. When you're on the Smart Table, it's a 360-degree environment. So you have to remember that when you make things, things are going to be upside down sometimes, but it's okay because remember that student's going to be on the opposite side of you looking at the table. All right, so there's my background. So that's the first step. I hope you were able to complete that. So the next step is I need to scroll down to my applications. And I'm going to choose, so I'm going to choose Hot Spaces as an application. And I'm going to choose Media, and they're in alphabetical order. So I've got 2 applications right now that I'm going to use. So that's all I'm going to keep right now, and then we'll come back and add a couple more. So this is now when I use this activity pack, this is what's going to show up on my table. So as I look across here, I've got access to activity packs that will access the web. If I want that, I can go and look and see what is out there. If I want to open up, I can do that. Or I've got my 2 tabs. So there's a couple of ways to open these tabs. I can click on the tab itself, or I'm going to go back to the home button. So the home is like the student menu. But here's a little trick. If I click on this circle right here, it will also take me to that application. So let's start with Hot Spaces. So you see it's, and I've said this many times when I've done these, it's very linear. So step 1, it says create your activity. Well, I'm going to call this, so this is Hot Spaces, so I'm going to call this Foul Counting 1, because I might want to repeat these steps multiple times. So I'm going to call it fall counting 1. If I want another activity, I've got the little plus right here, and I can call this fall counting 2. And then if I want to reorder these, that's what the arrows are. So I can reorder those. So you might create a bunch of activities and tell the students to only do 2 of the applications. You open it up on your computer and then you kind of negotiate. So you've got have some scaffolding going on. So let me get to fall counting 1. I'm going to, if the step 2 says to create a background. Well, you know that folder that I created? All right, so here I'm going to go to this, and I'm going to have to go to my Dropbox folder. You're not going to have this many Dropbox folders. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to hot. So I went and negotiated to that folder. So I have Smart Table Virtual User Group September 30th. Here's hot spaces, and I need a background, and I've given you a background. Notice that the only thing that shows up right now is the PNG. You can use PNG, you can use JPEGs, you can use GIFs, although sometimes those are animated. They won't be animated on the table. So I'm going to double click on that. There's that cropping feature again. So I'm going to crop this down a little bit. Notice that I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And I'm going to click OK. And there is my background. So the way that the table works is it's almost like layers. So, or the table toolkit building is like layers. So this is the first layer, and then the first layer is always static. It doesn't move. Then we have the stuff that moves. So I've got my first activity here started. So if you look down here, it says create a background. I'm going to come back to this visual feedback in just a second. There's my instructions again. I could say, let's count. And if I wanted to, I could have my audio there. Now remember that your instructions need to be generic. So then the next step, it says define your hot spaces. So set up the activity. So this is where it's tricky. This is where you may, if you're following along, you may need to practice this a little bit. It takes a little bit of practice, I'll tell you that. So, but we'll get started with it. So you've got a rectangle that you can make, you've got a circle, and then you have a polygon which you can make freeform shapes. I made this background, and you really need to think about when you're making the background so you get all of your pieces together. Brandy will talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to create a circle here. So this is going to be my hot space. I'm going to drag this across, and know that see how I'm just gone over it a little bit? It's okay because I'm going to click on the arrow, and when I click on the arrow, then I can click here and I can move, left click and drag that onto my little 5 space. I'm going to do that again. I got that better here. So click and I can drag, do another circle, and I'm going to click. Whoops, I have to click. If you accidentally do this and then you try to move it, you're going to get lots of circles. Just go back to the arrow, click, and then red X, and you can delete them. So that's pretty good. If you don't like it, you can always delete it and get rid of it and come back. I'm going to go over just a little bit because I can see that I'm off. So you just have to eyeball it. I haven't found the trick yet. All right, so there's my little hot spaces. So what a hot space is this space is hot. So the kids are going to be pulling in their information. All right. So there's a couple of ways to do this. I'm going to do this a little, not all of them, but I'm going to do some of this so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go back and search fall, and actually not fall, I'm going to search leaves. So I've created this, and I know there's a bunch of leaves that match these colors. So I'm going to go through, and I'm clicking through until, so this is my prep work. I went through and found some leaves that I want, and I'm going to do, I just have to go through it. There's some fall leaves here. There's 93. Whoops. Maybe I need to have fall leaves in there. I did this the other day and obviously I forgot. No. Okay. Maybe I skipped through too fast. Let's keep thinking. So I want to give Brandy some time, so I'm going to click through here and show you. I know they're here. Huh. Well, let's just see what happens if I put leaf in there, or leave. I know I have them because I created it for you guys. Let's do this. I'm not sure what I did as a search. I apologize. Oh, there they come. Holy cow. So there's where I'm looking for. So I have this leaf, and I know that this is going to match this color, so I'm going to click OK. It's going to do the same thing where it's going to bring that color up, and there's my little leaf right here. So I think it goes here. So you can see that I am going to go through those steps and find some leaves and continue doing that. Now, how many times am I going to have to do that? Well, I have the 3. So I'm going to have 2 leaves here, 5 leaves here, 3 leaves here, and 7 leaves here. So the last step that you're going to do, I'm going to just kind of go through this so you can see it. And you do have the final one. There's a start position and an end position. So what you want to do is start up at the end position. Where do you want the kids to have to get the right answer? So here is my end position. Here is my start position. I might place all of these in the center of here. And then so I have this would be the right answer, and this is going to be where they start. Now here's the last things you might say. I don't have a table at home when I'm building, so how do I know if this is going to work right? Well, I can preview it, and if I have a Smart Table 442, I might choose whichever version I want. So if I have a 230i, then I might choose that and click OK. Now I'm going to preview it, and it's going to show me it's going to look like on the table. There's my little let's count. And then what will happen is if I have this here, notice I get the validation, the purple marching ants. If I had completed all of this, the students would get all of those. And that's as simple as it is. If you have multiple activities, you can click through there to see those activities. You can make this bigger if you want and hit the escape button. It shows you down here. So that's kind of how you do this. Now remember those purple marching ants, this visual feedback right here? This is, if you don't want it to give you the purple marching ants after every time the student drags something into it, you can deselect that. That way they have to get everything into its spot, and then it'll give the validation for you. So I'm going to encourage you to try this Hot Spaces out. Let's quickly move into media. And media is pretty simple. You basically, you can have 35 different things. You can have images or you can have videos. So let's go back to my folder. Here's my media folder. Here's what's kind of cool. I can take all of those and click open, and then click, 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 and there they are. So you could have 35 things. You can have pictures or video. If you want a background, I would encourage, if you have a lot of pictures that have a lot of action in them, I would keep a solid background, but you can change your background as well. You can also, if I go back to that Dropbox folder, whoops. and I go into here. Notice that I don't see my video. I can use the drop down and change it to AVI or WMV, and there's my video. I won't be able to see the video here, but I can see it. I know what the video is because I can preview it. There's some options right here down at the bottom. You can enable Zoom, which is that pinch and zoom feature. So if you want your students to be able to zoom it and make them bigger, I encourage you not to make them too big because then the kids will take over the screen, but you might have something that you really want them to see. Then you have some options on what do you want them to, what size. The default is 2. I usually leave this the way this is, and then you can also add an audio instruction. And then that is, so if I preview this, same thing. That I can't stretch them on when I'm doing the preview, but if you tried it out on the table, you'll save it out as whatever name it is, and then you can resize those. So that is how to, whoopsie, let me go out of here. That is how you can create an activity pack. Now, if you will update to if you update to version 2.6, you, I think, will get this Scrapbook and Symphony. These are 2 new apps. Scrapbook is an app where students can create digital scrapbooks and actually export in PDF. And Symphony is a music app. I encourage you to try these. Now, Hot Spaces and Media are customizable. Symphony and Scrapbook are not customizable. You just use them on the table as is. So just so you know, so we do have some customizable ones and non-customizable applications. So you want to save this at whatever name you want this to be. So if I save it, I'll just say Fall Fun and then save it. So I can see up here, and then I save it to a USB, plug it in, and I'm good to go. All right, so a couple more things. There are some third-party apps that we'll talk about this next time, how you can download it. The directions are in the file. You can download these from the Smart Exchange, and then you just place them on the USB, or you can connect to your Smart Table to Wi-Fi and download them straight to the table. Here's a little, when I share this file, you'll have these applications. The descriptors came from the Smart Exchange. All right, Brandy. So that, hopefully, that gave you a little bit of help. And Tara, do we have any questions while I'm changing over to Brandy?
We did have a few questions that came in, but I think I answered all of them. Lots of questions on the resources being sent and things like that. So I think we're good.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, so Brandy, I'm going to change the presenter back over to you. Let me see. I think you are unmuted. Oh, there's your screen. Let me see. Whoops. I think you're still muted. Or it looks like it from here. Oh, there you are. Oh, yep, there you are.
Okay, awesome. I think we did have one question, Heather. They saw the A is for app on the side of your panel, and they were wondering if that was customizable or not.
I'll look while you're doing this, and you know what? It is customizable. Yep, it is.
I haven't used that one, so I can't remember.
So there's a bunch of apps. A is for that one is customizable. I'll have that up. It is. You can download those from the Smart Exchange. You just download it and extract the little icon and then open it up and it adds it to the panel. We're going to talk about that next time, but yes, that one is customizable.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I guess some of the tricks that I've learned as I've created these is when I was working with them with my kids, I found that sometimes when I downloaded a file, they were great, but there wasn't enough activities. Like when she was building the fall one, there was like 1 or 2 counting, and my kids would get into it and then find that there wasn't enough. So I guess my biggest suggestion is to listen to your kids when they're playing and then see what they say. So I would add different things to that to make it more, do more counting or higher counting to fit your different groups, or count in different ways, or do the opposite, which was a suggestion on today's meet, was to throw pictures on there and then have kids move the numbers. You could do it both ways instead of them moving pictures into the boxes as well. So those are great ways to make a few more activities within hot spaces or media or whatever ones you're using. Those are great. This is my Smart Table folder, and so I have to have things very sorted for myself. And so I have a folder that when I'm creating things, I have all my backgrounds. So I might go and list all the different backgrounds, and so if I'm looking for a certain one, I can find it if they're artsy or if they're box-shaped or curved or colored or all kinds of things like that. And I put them all in one place because I like to have the color in the background or a picture or something like that, or just a frame on the background. So it just has anything I find that I want to use. You can see it's in there. So I like to keep it very organized that way. She was talking about the sound files. And I figured out pretty quickly that as I was making things and giving my kids directions, that I was kind of using the same direction over and over again from activity pack to activity pack. And so I decided that I would start recording the sound so I didn't have to do it every single time. I could just add it in. So I created a Word document that lists what I said for each of these WAV files. And then when I was ready to use that, I would just pull up my list when I was making my activity packs. And like she said, they're pretty broad, because if you have 6 different activities within hot spaces, you want that one direction to kind of work with all of them. My computer's running a little slow. So you kind of got to look at how, what could be working for all 6 of your activities, like trace the shapes and names, do you see others? Read the questions carefully. So they can be very generic at times. Also things like write the times and add hands on the clock. That's specific for a time one, but they were repeatedly doing it on several pages. So they might have, a total of 10 to 15 questions so that they were doing that. I know the kids like that. So I just would label the number, and whenever I was doing it, I would just go, okay, I'm going to insert that WAV file. So that way I didn't have to, if I didn't have my headset or it was loud in my house at the moment, I didn't have to worry about not having that sound file. Because you could always put the sentence in there and come back to it if you need to record later. It's like Heather with her thing just fell out. That happens. So I keep those files in there as well. I keep a folder with my video files so that any videos I'm using are all together. It just seems to be the easiest way for me to keep things organized. So if I open this file, this is like all the ones that I've made. And so when I come up with something that we're teaching, let's say blends and digraphs, if that's coming up in my unit, so I make a folder for it, and I think of what is it that I need to teach within this. What are the blends that we're using? What are the digraphs? What are the whatever it is? And so I start to think of all the different ways that we could do this. Could we do it in hot spaces? What would I do? If I'm going to put media, what could I find? And so I find all the different things I can do and put them together, and then grab pictures and stuff. And so I make my backgrounds, I tend to make them with PowerPoint. And the best way I can tell you on this one is I will start with like this in PowerPoint, and I'll figure out what's my color scheme or whatever to make it all kind of the same so it's consistent throughout and doesn't detract from what I really want them working on. And then once I get this set up, then in PowerPoint I copy that slide over and over again. So really when I go from slide to slide, all I have to change, instead of BL and SL on this page, they're going to sort FL and CL. And so I'm not having to recreate this page from scratch every single time. I just copy and paste it. That's another big shortcut that helps. You can see there's multiple ones that we did in that lesson. Here's one where they have 2 hot spots, where there was a picture of a glass and they moved it here, and a picture of the fly and they moved it here. This was the background, the static background that Heather was talking about. So that's on there. And again, several of those to go through, so there's not just 1 or 2. Here's hot spaces. So again, where she had that static background and they were dragging things in, making that square on top of it so they can have that place. And then I would have the pictures in every corner so that they could just pull from the corners and put them there instead of all of them being piled on top of each other in the center. But again, I would make that up and then just change what would go on the inside. And so those are some of the best ways to make your backgrounds, I think. Whether you do it in Notebook or PowerPoint, just do that, copy that page again, and just change the words. Keep your, once you get your font set and all of those, that kind of helps you speed up a little bit in making those table files for yourself. I used to just write it all down, but I had let's see where I put it. I had a sheet that I would fill out. Here we go. That I would just get a notebook, and I just had a Smart Table notebook, and I just kept everything in a notebook, and if something came to my mind, I would just add it to that page. But you could easily make, a planning sheet on your own, and I think I have this on the Exchange somewhere. If not, we can make an attachment to this. But it just has whatever different things they can do, the hot splices, the media, and all of that. And you could add, of course, there's all the new ones now. Image reveal and narrow it down were the latest ones when I had created this. But you could add the A is for, and the symphony, which you can't change, but the scrapbook, if you had some certain ideas you wanted to put, put that, change the box and put that on there too. And I would just write down pictures I needed or an idea, or I want them to sort this and that. And I would just have my ideas here so that when I had this pretty full, then I knew I was ready to actually sit down and start making something. So if you're one of those people that needs to write down those things, that would be a good idea. Like I said, I just had a notebook, and each page was something different, and I had it a 2-page, one on the right, one on the left, so that I could, this was done, or I needed to look for kind of thing. That just kind of helped in creating my sources. That was the best way that I found to kind of organize what I needed to do inside there. Trying to think what else would be most helpful.
Brandy, we've got just a couple, well, actually not very much time at all. So could you show everyone where it might be just a little dated, your file that you have uploaded to the Smart Exchange?
Let's
you have that?
The file itself, let's see.
So Brandy, while she's typing this, Brandy created, so some of you were a little overwhelmed, which is understandable. The toolkit should be on your computer. It should just be a green icon that the icon looks like the little toolkit icon. And so it's there, but if this was a little overwhelming, I am going to share the file that I did today. I would highly encourage you to, those are all activity packs. I would highly encourage, oh, there you go. I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to like the August and maybe the May sessions. Those kind of go into very basic how-tos and not so much of this creation. And then, Brandy, you've got your basic toolkit stuff up there. Yes. So, yeah, so they would search by what, B Magdos?
Just type in Magdos, and they came up that way.
Okay.
M-A-G-D-O-S.
Yeah, so she did a phenomenal job of step-by-step for how to do each activity. Some of the default ones are the basic ones that we went through. Some of the other things, I'm working on some other resources, but that will, I think, help you for sure.
Ooh.
All right. And So I think with that, it's 5:02 Central Time, and want to be cognizant. Maybe, I don't know if you're available next month, but maybe you can join us again and give some more tips and tricks if you're available. So we can work on that. But I'm going to, if it's okay, did you have anything else that you wanted to share?
No, I think that's pretty good. I think, like you said, people, it's a lot to take in and a lot to, I just think, get yourself organized, whatever works the best for you. because there is a lot that you can do to create these. And if you have some go-to files with your pictures and backgrounds and stuff, and you have that there, it's a little bit easier for you to get yourself going.
Yeah, so I just don't worry about clogging the feed. This is why we did the today's meet, because sometimes those questions, other people have the same questions. So it helps to ask those questions, and it helps us. So definitely reach out, and we'll keep this going. So if you think of more questions, please keep this going. So Jackie, no worries at all. Let's see, it's a little bit past. I think next month I was going to talk about choosing activities, but next month I'll spend some time on applications, third party. If you're just getting started, I would highly recommend just going in with the basics, and then we'll talk about, this is actually on the table, so we'll hold that. It's really this is on the table, so we'll keep that. I included some general maintenance, where to find those activities and applications. And then I do have some resources. So Brandy had a great one. I included those in the activity, in the folder, in the Dropbox folder. The past sessions, don't forget, because I go through a lot of the basics, and it is very, very repetitious. I wanted to, in the follow-up email, I will send some information. We have our Educator to Educator. I will include a link how to join our Educator to Educator network. If you click on the SMART Exchange, and I know we've gone over, and I apologize, but I really want to tell this. So just if you have to disconnect, I understand, no, not a worry. But if you're logged into the SMART Exchange and you go over to the training link, then go ahead and click here, and this will take you to Course Park. And this is where our Educator to Educator network is living. So Course Park is, we have a board, and we're going to be placing all of the resources on the board. So if I log in here, then I can see what is, I can see all the board that's here, and I'll send you some information because obviously I can't get my password just right. It's too many passwords. So I'll send you some information about that. I wanted to go slow enough so hopefully would help you to start building, or to really see how people built things. There are a wealth of resources out there. Go watch some of those past sessions that are on there, because a lot of the toolkit information is the same. So the table software has changed, but the toolkit is primarily the same. So I would go back to some of the past sessions on the YouTube channel, and you can see, so just go to youtube.com, let's see, youtube.com, and then Smart Table Friend. And you can go back and you can see a ton of, these are all the past sessions here. And if you click on it, you can actually see what I talked about in each session. So this was a back to the basics series. So you can go in, and it was really, so this was back in April, and it was already version 2.6. Of the table in version 2.5, but it's pretty similar. So use those as resources that will help you. And with that, I apologize, we went just a little over tonight. Tara, any final questions that we need to address?
Nope, I think we're good.
Thank you so much. So I will be uploading, and I'll upload these files to Educator, but I also will follow up and send these out. So you'll get this file, the resources, some of Brandy's tips and tricks. And if you do have any questions, please email Tara and myself at ed2ed@smarttech.com. Keep the questions coming on the Today's Meet. That will stay live for a month. And be watching for the webinar. And our next session will be October 28th, where we'll continue. If you have any questions, email me, email Tara, and we'll do our best to answer them and or connect you with someone who can answer. If you're having some technical difficulties with your table, my recommendation is to contact support, SMART, or your local vendor who you purchased your SMART tables from. All right, so with that, Brandy, I wanted to thank you so much for sharing those tips and tricks, and I know that you started off small and you just went grand, so it can happen. It's a very easy little application to work with, and with that, have a fabulous afternoon or evening, and we will see you again on October 28th. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tara.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.